Hey, it's Dan Melnick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zing, and I'm proud to be a sponsor of this podcast. So please check us out today as we can help fuel your business growth. myzing.io. Thank you.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
Firstly, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to interview you for my podcast and for my channel.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry it took me a little while to get back to you. It's just been really busy lately.
So I've gone through your profile. I can see you're doing a lot of work and contributing a lot to the technology world. So I thought to tell about your work to my audience.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you.
So can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah, sure. My name is Yan Cui. I am a AWS Serverless hero. I've been working as an independent consultant for the last, I guess about 4.5, 5 years now. Before that, I worked as a principal or architect in the number of um, guess different industries. So many years ago, I started my career in the kind of investment banking space, went to work for social gaming, building Facebook games, and then later mobile games, and then work in the companies that are doing e-commerce, and also social networks. And then one of my last jobs before I went into consulting was working for a company called The Zone, which is a live sports streaming platform. You can think of it as the Netflix, but for live sports. It was probably one of the biggest, I guess, the platforms of that kind. And at a peak, we were doing something like 2 million concurrent viewers at peak for some of the biggest, sporting events. And so it was a really nice, large, scalable system. And yes, learned a lot along the way. In the 15, 16 years, I've been working as a professional engineer.
Great. I can also see you're helping a lot of engineers through your platforms.
Yeah, so I spent I've been blogging for quite a long time now. It feels like I've been doing the whole blogging side of things for maybe like 15 years almost. And it's been yes, pretty much any time I learn something, I've been trying to share. Most of the time that's through my blogs. Also got a YouTube channel as well, and also a podcast. Try to talk to other people and share their lessons and get their messages as well across. But also been quite active on social media. You can find me as the Burning Monk on Twitter, and also been quite active on LinkedIn as well. And also you can find my blog at theburningmonk.com.
Right now, you're connected with how many companies?
How many companies? What do you mean by connected?
You have your own, you are the founder of Burning that one. And I can also see you're working as an advocate, developer advocate.
Yeah, so the Burning Man Limited, that's my own sort of company that I do all my consulting work through, and also work with I guess I've got work with quite a lot of different clients. I don't know if you can call them as connected, and I also work with Lumigo as well, which is one of the providers. To me, Lumigo is the best observability platform mostly for serverless, but they also support containers, Kubernetes, and they also do log aggregation as well. But no, personally, I mostly do serverless work, work around serverless technologies. So I mainly use them and know them for the serverless side of things. And yeah, I work with them. They are a client of mine. They're kind of a bit of a special client in that, I was working with them, as an advisor, part of the advisory board when they first started. And recently, the last couple of years, been helping them with content, working with the team on the, blog posts, or on the webinars and things like that. So you can also, I guess you can kind of call me one of their developer advocates, even though I don't really work for them per se. Other than that, I also do some stuff around. I've been on advisory boards for a few startups, and I've also been, doing publishing work with Manning and O'Reilly as well. So Those are not, I mean, those are called companies I work with, but not so much connected per se.
So you are an engineer, architect, and also content writer, speaker, and also contributor. So how you are able to manage all these skills and work for different work in different roles, being in technology for 15 plus years, especially as a AWS hero.
Yeah, so I mean, not having a full-time job helps. I don't know, working for yourself, as independent, you have a lot more freedom to choose what you do or how you spend your time. You do have a lot more responsibilities, but at the same time, it frees you up from having the sort of 9 to 5 and being in the continuously in meetings. So you do have a lot more time in terms of pursuing other things that interest you. So, I like writing, I like sharing. So it's something that I kind of just naturally do anyway. But also as a solopreneur, you can use content as part of your marketing as well. So that also helps, with that. And other than that, in terms of some of the other work I do with clients, they're not, 9 to 5 jobs. They are a lot of time, maybe, I'll talk with a client a couple of times a week or maybe a couple of times a month. And sometimes I take on a delivery project where I build client's got an idea for a new app. I build the backend for them. So there are times where it's more intense, when you have to deliver this thing within a certain amount of time. But most of the advisory kind of consulting work is fairly ad hoc, and so it's not gonna keep you busy all the time. So it frees you up to do a lot more other stuff that you want to do. Also provide the training as well. I run I guess every couple of months I run a workshop called the Production Ready Serverless. You can go to productionreadyserverless.com to check it out as well. So this is more of like end-to-end training, where I take you from, I guess, getting started to AWS and the serverless technologies, all the way to cover everything you should be thinking about in terms of building, APIs, building event-driven architectures, thinking about error handling, thinking about observability, thinking about security and CI/CD testing, all of that stuff. So I'll give you a pretty wide perspective on everything you should be thinking about when it comes to building real world serverless architectures that you're going to be operating in production. So that's also a big part of my consulting work as well. It's just to, provide training both to companies, but also to the general public through these kind of workshops and courses.
You're from?
Originally from China, but I'm a British citizen, lived in the UK for over 20 years. Nowadays I live in the Netherlands.
So you are an individual contributor.
Individual contributor, yes, I work for myself.
So you are a self-made man, and you're working for different companies, and being as an engineer and also creating content different companies. Can I say that?
Uh, Not so much creative content for other companies. I'm not really, no, I don't really do that very much. The only company that I kind of helped out with is Lumigo, because I have a long, partnership with them, from the time when I was on their advisory board. So I do help their team, with some of the content side of things. But other than that, yeah, I don't do content work with other people. I'm not one of the freelancers you can hire to produce content, because honestly, I don't have the bandwidth to do other people's content as well as my own. Keeping up with my own content schedule is really quite tough. So I don't have the bandwidth to help others with their content. But I help other clients in terms of, reviewing the architectures, helping them with, solving problems, answering questions about how do I, approach this particular problem. Or sometimes the client needs some training, or sometimes that they just need someone to come in and build a system for them. So yeah, I offer a whole range of different consulting services.
So you are an engineer, and also you have been as an architect. So how much you know about AWS, and how much you contribute? What up to what level you can help businesses in solving their business problems with the technology skill set that you have, especially in AWS?
In terms of how much I know about AWS, fair amount, I guess. I've been using AWS. I've been building stuff in AWS on AWS since about 2010. So I've run through the whole journey from using EC2 instances to running stuff on containers to once Lambda became a thing, pretty much focus on the serverless side of things because I spent most of my career dealing with servers, patching them, sending machine images, all that stuff, and it doesn't take a genius to work out that most of that stuff is not really adding value to customers directly. It's stuff that's important, but not things that you really provide the most value as a engineer for a company. And so I really focus more or less, pretty much entirely on serverless architectures these days. In terms of how do I help companies, I can help them from anything from actually building stuff as an engineer to advising them from the architecture side of things to talking to CTOs, so giving them, helping them come up with a strategy for how they should, approach the architecture, the modernization efforts, to talking to maybe CEOs about how should you I guess think about your technology choices, but again, for those would be much normally for a smaller company, because usually for bigger companies, they will have dedicated CTOs, and that's who I'll be interfacing with. So depending on the size of the company, you'll be talking to different people at different levels within the organization. For large enterprises, I'll be probably talking to head of development or engineering managers to help them with the problems that within a particular team as opposed to for the entire organization. But yeah, it depends on the client and what the client needs and how the client is organized.
And what kind of projects you have done?
All sorts. In terms of just from the consulting side of things, I've helped clients build entire applications. If it just that's what you're looking for in terms of the actual delivery project. I've helped one of the clients I helped with. We built a new social network in a couple of weeks. So that project was for basically a social network for people that at universities in Belgium. Initially, at least initially, they want to. They had some agreement with. I forgot the name of the European program. But yeah, so essentially they got some funding so that they were building a social network that allows universities to, basically enroll their students into this social network they can organize to do sports together. And also universities and other sporting institutions can publish their programs for, say, basketball, for gymnastic lessons and other things like that, a sporting program on the app so that people can register, pay for the lessons, and then go and do, I don't know, yoga or, football matches or whatever. So we shipped that project with, there was a pretty tight deadline because it had to be released by the time university semester starts. So we had, I think, about a couple of months to do that. We built the whole thing in about a couple of weeks. I was working part-time on that project to do fully the back end. So I implemented the whole thing with AppSync, so using GraphQL, Lambda, and DynamoDB as the core technology stack. Of course, there's also other things like S3, CloudFront. I used Algolia for search. But also work for other clients. And then the project that we delivered was a healthcare app in the US for US client. It was in scope for HIPAA compliance, so there's a lot more security stuff in there, like VPCs. Everything had to be in VPCs. Everything had to be encrypted at rest and in transit. There's also a lot of audit requirements in terms of who's accessed what. So there's also a lot of stuff around that as well. And then also worked with a client more recently to build a new document assembly application for lawyers. So this is a company that's in the US elder law space. They were building a new, as a lawyer, so they spend a lot of time just drafting documents. And so, a common kind of requirement is you sit a client down to answer a bunch of questions, and then based on the case you're working on, draft a new Word document based on the information you collected from the interview. So we implemented a whole CMS system, which allows them capture the client information, the caseworkers, answer, conduct the interview questions, and then use that information to draft a document, a Word document, for legal documents for different kind of cases and whatnot. So that's one of the more recent projects that we worked on. But besides those, I also get involved with a lot of architectural reviews and other things like that. But yeah, it really depends on what the client needs help with. Not everyone wants to hire external team to come and build a system for them. But yeah, that's something that I offer, and yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And what size business you help for, and are you the only person who help, or you have a team?
I'm the only person. I work for myself. I'm a solopreneur. So I've got some friends that I sometimes work with. That sometimes when I need additional, pair of hands, I've got one or two people that I sometimes bring on board as a subcontractor. They're friends of mine. I've worked with them in the past. I trust them. But other than that, I work for myself. My company is essentially just me. And yeah, I do everything myself.
So the projects that you worked for, what size of businesses that those are?
Sometimes, most of the delivery projects are small companies. Sometimes it's more of a medium-sized company. So you have, you're talking about a company with maybe tens, maybe 100 people. For the really large companies like your real enterprises, they have their own team already. They probably wouldn't hire an external person to come in to just implement the whole system for them. So for those clients, I typically come in as a consultant to do advisory work. So I work with the team, maybe do some pair programming, maybe do some training, but I wouldn't be the one to deliver the actual system. Typically those enterprises that when they engage someone to do delivery work, they'll be looking for an agency that can bring in, lots of people, not just one person that you work with directly. So for large enterprises, I tend to work more from the advisory side of things as opposed to the actual implementation side of things. I've got a real mix of different clients. Some of them you may have heard of. I've worked with companies like Taco Bell and Yum, and government agencies like DVLA in the UK. To companies that you never have heard of because they're really small companies. So it really depends. It's this whole gamut of different sizes and industries.
And working as an engineer and also being a consultant and also writing content and giving content. So how these different skill sets that are working for you, and what magic that you're doing, so that my audience will know that.
Yeah, I think all of those are skills that are related. Of course, as an engineer, you obviously have to build your technical skills, understanding how to write code, how to understand how to use the AWS services. But at the same time, all of those are, engineering is a means to an end. You're just trying to solve a business problem ultimately using technology. So at the same time as you being very good with what you do on the technical side of things, you should also develop your skills to understand business requirements, the business needs, so that you're not just creating solutions for a vacuum and then you create solutions that are looking for a problem. And so you also want to develop your business acumen. And once you have a strong understanding of business requirements and also technical skills to be able to implement those, then you have a really good understanding of not just what it is you're trying to do, but also why you should do them as well. And that really also helps in terms of understanding when do you buy a solution versus when do you implement it yourself, because you want to understand the cost trade-offs, but also not just in terms of the operational cost, but also in terms of the opportunity cost of you spending time to build something where you can just buy the solution off the shelf. And understanding those business requirements is a really key to understanding how to make that choice, make those choices. And of course, a lot of those translates to writing as well. I mean, we all use libraries, we all use services, and documentation is a big part of that, right? You go to you discover a new library you want to use. How do you know how to use that? Part of it is the API that you get from the library, but also another part of it is the documentation. How do you know what to include in the documentation and what not? Do you talk about specific use cases, or do you just say, hey, here's all the different APIs, you go figure it out yourself as a user? So those also feed into your ability to articulate use cases and also get into the shoes of the reader, the user, to understand what's their use cases, and then from that perspective, what are the most important information that you should convey in your documentations. And that skills translates to also the ability to write emails and write the communication to other team members and to the business, to communicate upwards, which is as you get more and more senior within your technical ranks, as a principal and as an architect, you're not just talking to developers anymore. You're talking to the business users who, don't care about how elegant your line of code is. They care about the business use cases. They care about the problem that you're actually solving for the business. And so you need to be able to communicate upwards. And so again, those skills also feed into how you communicate on blog posts and how you convey your ideas. And one of the things that I often find is that as engineers, you're writing blog posts, one of the common mistakes people that are just starting to write blogs, they often get stuck into just go straight into solution. I've got this great idea. I'm just going to tell people my great idea and write about it. But you haven't sold the problem to the reader. And so normally when I write something, I try to spend at least a bit of time just explaining what the problem is, why the problem is something that's worth solving, and what's the cost of not solving this problem before I present a solution. And also, I try to present what a good solution would look like before I present a solution, because otherwise, it's going to become a case of someone reading your article. They don't understand why you're doing this, what's the problem that you're trying to solve in the first place. And, you help them understand what the problem is, and then you present a solution. But before you present a solution, you help them understand, okay, what would a good solution look like? And that's where you explain the context of what you're working in. A solution that works well for, say, a startup might not work at all for enterprise, because they've got different requirements, different things they care about to different degrees. I mean, a startup may care about saving $100 a month on the AWS bill, but for enterprise, what's $100? That's what people spend on lunch. One person can spend that much on lunch, so who cares? But we care about things like security. We care about things like meeting compliance requirements, and we care about being able to iterate quickly and having that agility to ship products, because most enterprises struggle with speed. They tend to move very slowly because so many people are involved in the process. So different contexts requires different solutions, and it's part of your job as the author is to explain your context so that someone reading your content knows whether or not your solution is suitable for them. And that's the one big thing that I find that oftentimes is missing from technical articles. Is just I'm reading this, it's up to and I don't know if this solution is going to work for me or not. And so a lot of those skills comes from understanding business requirements, being able to speak in the language that someone who's not technical is able to appreciate and understand. So a lot of these skills are all related and something that you kind of develop over time. When you're starting out as a new engineer, of course, it's easier to just focus on the technical side of things. But more and more, you're going to want to understand not just what you're doing, but also why you're doing it. And that's where understanding the business becomes a really powerful skill, and is what ultimately is going to propel you towards higher, levels in your career. Maybe, if you still want to stick with the engineering track, you have, things like once you get to senior engineers, it's not just about being more effective at what you do, but also how much you can then influence the entire organization. That's where, instead of you optimizing for your individual output as an individual contributor, to get to, say, the principal engineer or to the staff engineer, it's all about maximizing your impact. And sometimes that comes at the cost of your personal output as an engineer. How much line of code you're able to push out. versus how much you can increase the overall productivity of the entire team. And so you become an amplifier for the entire organization, as opposed to just, you amplifying your own personal output. So again, a lot of that comes back to being able to understand the business, and finding the problems, solving the problems that has the biggest value for the business. And of course, some of you want to move to become managers instead. That requires a whole different set of skills, things like understand, being able to mentor people, being able to work out what makes them tick and help them improve, and manage them and manage expectations for both downward but also upward. So it requires a different set of skills, and something that I've never really got into, and never really interested in becoming a manager. So I've always stayed on the engineering track, and yeah, so that's so I can't really tell you too much about what being a manager is like. It's not something that I've ever done myself, nor am I particularly interested in becoming a manager.
How companies are hiring you to do their projects that you're doing now?
Pretty much entirely from my content. I haven't done any outbound, requests sending out the cold email to find people to say, hey, do you need help with, doing this project? People just find me from my content, and I've got, probably 1,000 blog posts or something like that out there now. So, people tend to find me through my blog, but also from my social media presence as well. Like I mentioned, I spend a lot of time also on the Twitter and LinkedIn. So people find me through those networks, and then they also reach out to me from there about the potential, consulting engagements.
So, what skill set you have?
So what
Skill set. What skill set you have?
case studies?
No. What skills? Like technology skills.
Oh, okay. Technology. I only work with AWS, and I only work with the serverless side of things. So if building things that want to run on AWS, and you don't want to manage any servers or containers, then yeah, that's the kind of problem that I'll be interested in. I do have clients reaching out to me about help just with AWS in general, how to do automatizations, and so occasionally people ask me for help for their container application or Kubernetes application. So I don't do anything related to containers or Kubernetes. I want to focus just on the serverless side of things. So your API gateway, Lambda, AppSync, whatever services where you can where you can get away from having to manage machines, and that's kind of my focus, my niche.
And how you are able to manage your time doing all these things?
Yeah, again, not having a full-time job really helps, so you have more time to spend. But yeah, it's a mix of doing stuff that you interest you, and you can decide how much time you want to spend on content versus when there's a project going on, that's where you spend probably. Sometimes I disappear from social media for a few months because I'm busy on a project, but sometimes I spend more time just because, but don't really have an active project that demands a lot of my time. Again, a lot of the ad hoc consulting work, it's not very time consuming, so you're able to do other stuff. So I do a mix, depending on what I'm busy with at the time. So it could be me spending more time working on a new course or updating one of my workshops, or it could be me spending more time just trying stuff out and then writing contents about them. Anything I learn, I try to share. So again, anything that you're learning has got its opportunity to produce some content, which also works as a marketing material for your for the consulting business.
So it's not easy to be good at understanding the businesses and also be a good engineer. So how you are able to be good in both?
I want to say it's not easy. It just takes time. I've been working in the industry for about 16, 17 years now. So I've had a lot of time to try different roles and try different technologies and grow in different dimensions. And yeah, a lot of it just comes down to effort that you put in. I've always been we've always been interested in the programming, and so I spend a lot of my time, just my own time, free time outside of work, just trying things and learning things. So over time, you spend 5 minutes a day learning something. Over time, over the course of years, that becomes a lot of hours that you've put into expanding your knowledge and learning different things. And so that's how you kind of grow. The other side of it is, is understanding that just having spending more time on something doesn't necessarily make you better at it overall, because you can, you need you need to learn different ideas and expose yourself to different problems. And that's where, having worked in the different industries, also really helps as well. I've worked on the, social games that has got, that's got different requirements to working in, say, e-commerce, and working in a startup, also is very different to working in the enterprise. So having that diversity of different experiences and different industries, has really helped, working on, large scale systems. Again, that has got different requirements, to how you build your system, how you do everything, because one simple mistake can be really, really costly when you got millions and millions of active users every day, versus building something for for a small number of users. So again, having that different experiences is very helpful. And one of the great thing about being a consultant is that you are going to be exposed to a very wide range of different use cases, because one client could be a small startup building something in social networks, another client could be a large enterprise working with HIPAA, another client could be a multinational company with millions and millions of users. So it's different situations. You can learn different things from that, and that's where I think being a consultant really helps broaden my horizon and the perspective. And you can learn years worth of things within just a few months, when you are working as a consultant and exposing to lots of different problems. Of course, you don't get to solve those problems as deeply. You don't get to maybe understand them as deeply as someone who's working on that one problem for years. But at the same time, so you should also have experiences where you can go really deep onto a problem for a long time. So I think having 6 years of 1 year experiences is different to having one continuous 6 years experience on one project. So having both are also going to be really useful as well. So if you can plan your career, then try to get a mix of different kinds of experiences, different industries, different environments, and also having experiences where you can you can see a project through and grow from small to large, so that you get an experience at different scales. You're going to see different problems. So again, it's about seeing a lot more problems, and then that's going to help prepare you in terms of becoming better at both engineering side of things, but also at the business side of things. It's just that perspective.
And you are the host of a podcast. What is it about?
Yeah, my podcast is called Real World Serverless. Again, it's similar to everything else I do. It's very much focused on the serverless side of things. It's a podcast where I speak with other people who are also practitioners who are building systems in the for using serverless technologies. I've talked with people that are sometimes clients, sometimes are just people that I know from social media. Sometimes there are people that I see, they wrote into an article about something, a really interesting use case, and I try to get in touch and get them to share their stories. Again, it's got a wide range of different people talking about different technologies, but all, the common thread is that they're all kind of, serverless. And then that's kind of my focus with the podcast, is about the sharing real world stories of, people building things using serverless technologies.
And when did you start this, the Burning Monk?
The Burning Monk blog, probably around 2009, 2010. So it's coming up to about 15 years of been blogging on the burningmonk.com domain.
And you write articles there, the AWS related articles.
I mean, when I first started blogging, I was mostly blogging about, I guess, .NET and functional programming and F Sharp because that was kind of my interest for a number of years. I was blogging, I guess back then it was the NoSQL movement was still kind of in motion. People were still learning about NoSQL, so I did some blogs around that as well. But then, yeah, since about 2015, it's been mostly about AWS, mostly about serverless, because that's been my focus, from then, since about 2015, 16, I think.
Okay. And the podcast, when you started this?
The podcast, let's check. I think it's been a few years at least. Let me see if we can go back to episode number 1 when that was. It's probably at least 3 years, more than that. Episode 1 was February 2020, so it's been over 4 years as well. We just hit episode number 101, so it hasn't been as frequent as every week. But I've been trying to keep it to maybe one episode every 2 or 3 weeks, and then so we got a steady stream of episodes coming in.
So the projects that you are doing as an architect or as an engineer, so how you are able to adapt yourself to the business and try to give what actually that business needs with the technology tools and services and the products that you have, and how do you communicate with the business leaders that you are working with?
I don't know if there's, I've got because you just talk to them, listen to them, and then ask the right questions. How you find the right questions, I don't really have a conscious way of mapping that out, but it's just something that comes from experience of working on different systems and working in different environments. And I guess most of the time I just drawing from that experience, so that when I hear people talking about, a client talking about the use case, most of the time I've got some sort of questions in mind based on the fact that I've worked on similar things in the past, so I know that if you're doing this, then you probably need to think about certain security requirements. If people talking about processing medical information, then I know HIPAA is going to be a requirement. Have you thought about how you're going to do how you're going to do encryption at rest with this service you're using? So a lot of that comes from experience. I don't really have a conscious sort of map in terms of knowing when someone talks about this, I should ask about that. A lot of it just comes from experience, and so it kind of just happens as I talk to people. I guess from that perspective, I'm at the unconscious competent stage where I'm not the consciously competent just yet in terms of knowing what's the right communication pattern to apply to a situation.
And at last, what do you say about your work to my audience?
Sorry, what's that?
At last, what do you say about your work with my audience?
What do I say about my work to your audience? I don't know. I guess if you're doing stuff with AWS and you're looking at serverless technologies and you need some help, either to upskill your team or to just get some help outside the perspective on whether or not you're doing the right things, you're following best practices, or if you just need someone to come in and actually build something for you because you've got a good idea but you don't have the skills to actually build it yourself, then you can reach out to me. Go to THEBURNINGMONK.com, have a look at my profile, look at my consulting services, and then maybe we can work together.
I'll put your web link on the screen and also in the description, also in my website as well. People who find this video or audio clip anywhere in the internet can be able to see the work that you're doing and can take the help for their business.
Okay, thank you very much. And even if you're not interested in needing my help, you can also just check out my podcast as well at realworldserverless.com, where you can find out about other people who are using serverless and why they're doing it, and also what are the lessons that they're learning from using serverless technologies in the real world.
I'll share that link as well.
Cool, thank you very much.
And what is your observation about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
Not yet. I'm really sorry. Just been really busy with loads of other stuff. Yeah, again, sorry for taking so long to get back to you on this. But I saw you had an interview with Jeff Barr from AWS. So I was going to have a look at that when I get a chance.
So I have interviewed a lot of AWS experts and also
Right.
Azure experts and GCP experts and also a lot of CEOs, founders, CTOs, and
Okay.
different business leaders and also engineers, architects, more than 100 countries experts I have interviewed for my podcast from in last 3-4 years. So my profession is my full-time job is I'm an AWS Cloud DevOps Engineer. That's my full-time role. So apart from that, I'm interviewing experts like you who are in the industry from long time, who are helping and contributing and helping businesses trying to understand the business side of the technology, also helping the engineers to grow and upskill themselves, trying to show you people to my audience in order to able to understand how things will work in the IT industry and also in different businesses. So what is your observation doing this kind of a work, being an AWS DevOps engineer, communicating with global experts, how this is going to be helpful for me in my career in coming days?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, if you got a full-time job already, then this can probably help prepare you for, in the future, potentially going out on your own, because, as a consultant, you're the only one that's going to be doing marketing for yourself. And so, a lot of the time I spend, working is, in some way always going to be marketing. So, when I do a blog post, when I do a podcast, and in many ways, that's how people learn about me and my work. And that's how I find work for my consulting business, and also find students that take my courses and workshops and whatnot. So, giving yourself that exposure is definitely something that's going to help prepare you potentially for the future if you want to go solo and do something for yourself. And of course, you reaching out to all these different people, and it's also a great way to do networking as well, so that even when you do decide to do something in the future, you already have a network of people who you have spoken with in the past, and so that's also a great thing as well. There's a guy called Jonathan Stark who also often talks about the whole ditching hourly billing, using value pricing instead. And one of the things he also often writes about is this whole building a relationship with your audience, and what he calls asymmetric relationship with a blog post, with a podcast, where people listen to your voice all the time, they see you all the time, so they feel really close to you. But to you, they're all just a silent audience who listen to you, but you don't know them. But over time, that builds that kind of relationship with your audience, so that they trust you. They listen to your voice all the time, and they feel like they know you. And I've definitely had lots of cases where people come to me and say, "Oh yeah, I've been reading your stuff and I've been listening to you for so long, watching your videos as I was learning serverless. I feel like I know you personally, but this is the first time we've met." So you definitely have that you are building those relationships, even though you may not be aware of the fact that that's what's happening. And those relationships are super important when it comes to you trying to make it as a consultant or a solopreneur trying to make a living in the future, if you decide to go down that path. So it's keep up the good work, and hope that hope that you find the success with your podcast and your activities in the future.
Definitely. I'm curious to ask one question. So how you are able to be good in writing and also speaking and also doing engineering and also understanding business problems? How you are able to be a multitasker?
I guess, a lot of that comes down to just practice. Obviously I've had, 15 years of practice in terms of writing content. Also I spend a lot of time reading other content. And so again, a lot of that comes from just, experience that you learn about, the skills that are related to writing, not just about, reading things and trying to figure it out for yourself, but also reading about writing. So, reading about how how copywriters do certain things, and also been luckily I've been involved with some book projects with Manning, so I've worked with some copywriters who are professional copywriters. So I also get some I've received some help from them in terms of understanding what works, what makes certain writing good, certain writings bad, and yeah, I've taken on online courses and other things around, certainly writing for social media, which requires different kind of formatting because of the amount of competition you have as people are scrolling. So that requires slightly different styles of writing. And in terms of speaking, also, spend some time studying speaking, because I do a lot of conference speaking as well, studying, learning about public speaking, how you structure your slides and how you sort of present yourself, your posture, how you communicate. So a lot of those things are things that, you kind of do you learn by doing, but also at the same time, it requires, deliberate practice where you have to learn what good looks like, and not just do what you feel most comfortable. And all of that is a learning process. It's like learning anything, any skill requires some element of practice, but also requires a deliberate practice. So that I don't know if you're familiar with the whole 10,000 hours rule in terms of being good, becoming a leading expert in a competitive field. Are you familiar with that theory of the 10,000 hours? Yeah, so oftentimes people confuse that with just doing something for 10,000 hours. But if you actually read the book where that's talked about, and also that's one more thing, books are probably, slightly fading out of fashion compared to, just reading social media stuff or blog posts, but the books are still a great source of very rich and deep knowledge, which you probably won't find in a blog post. And reading a book is much more work, but at the same time, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the sort of summarizing tools that you get with, with AI chatbots or with Blinkist and tools like that, where I find that if I read the book in its end to end, yes, it takes much more effort, but there's so much more nuance in the book that you just won't get from something that summarizes a chapter into like a single paragraph or a single page. You're just going to miss out on a lot of the really good stuff that you're going to get from the book. So talking about that 10,000 hours thing, it's 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. So it's something that a deliberate practice is when you challenge yourself, when you have to actually work hard. If you're doing sports, you'll be when you're actually sweating and getting muscle pains. So it's not just when you just walk around for an hour. It's not the same. It's about intensity. It's about challenging yourself. And the same thing with any skills from writing, from engineering. There's elements of, yes, you need to have that practice time, but also you need to be deliberate about how you're practicing. Just hitting a ball, tennis ball, 10,000 times is not going to be the same as if you're practicing a particular skill, a particular way of doing like top spins or the particular way of doing backhands. And, you need to be very deliberate about, the form that you're practicing with and the way you're trying to achieve. And that's how you really get better at, doing, say, backhands on a tennis court. Same thing with, speaking to the, with writing, with engineering. If you're just doing the same thing every single time, you're not really going to get much better. It's about, I think in terms of engineering solutions, it's a really good way to do that would be to, putting constraints on yourself. Okay, how can I build this, this particular system, but in the most cost efficient way? I have to do these things so that I can handle X number of requests at a certain cost, or how can I build this system so that you push to the extreme in terms of scalability? Okay, and that's something that I often do with interviews when I'm asking, talking to candidates about, okay, tell me about a solution you worked on. And then once they explain what they've done, okay, now can we see how can we push certain aspects of that solution to the extreme in terms of, okay, you're handling 100 concurrent user requests. What if we change that to 10,000 requests per second? What would you do differently? So pushing yourself in terms of those extremes and thinking about different, edge cases where suddenly you realize, okay, I want to do this, but I can't because it's hit some limits. I want to do that. I can't because it's going to be super expensive. And so, pushing yourself, I think that's a really interesting and mental exercise in terms of just, testing your knowledge, but also testing your skills as an architect, as an engineer to work out, okay, I've got this problem. How can I solve it? And if you don't have those constraints, it's easy to just do whatever, and you're not really learning as much as if you were to put yourself into some kind of a situation where there's some constraints around, okay, scalability requirement or uptime requirements. And that's where I find that, when you're talking to people with a lot of experiences, people like AWS, for example, they can tell you so much about the building systems at a crazy scale, and the things that they have to learn and have to do is very different to, say, your average person trying to build a web app with just 10 users, whatever. So, those are the things that you're going to need to learn to be able to put yourself beyond just the basic. And the same thing goes to talking to the business. That's the harder skill to actually develop because, you need to have someone you need to talk to practice, and I think that's that kind of skills probably just takes time and luck to some extent to to find yourself in situations where you do have the opportunity to sort of to exercise those muscles. Of course, you can learn about them in books, you can learn about them from courses, but turning to business and understanding business requirements, I think that probably just requires a little bit of luck in terms of your career, where you find yourself in, and the kind of situations you find yourself in, so that you can exercise those muscles and being in a position where you have to talk to, say, the non-technical stakeholders, talk to the business, management, and having to manage upwards in terms of the business stakeholders. So that skill is probably the harder to develop just by I want to do it, but you need to find yourself in a career path that exposes you to those requirements, and probably so slightly less easy to develop that skills in terms of talking to the business. But in terms of just writing, in terms of technical skills, there's a lot you can do to just put yourself by being more deliberate about how you practice those skills, how you exercise your ability.
Thanks for being inspiring, and thanks for making us to learn about great things and also how to make things happen. Can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Yeah, absolutely. Share on YouTube video, share on social media, share with your audience, and I'll try to help amplify as well.
Yeah, that's my next question. Like, can I put this audio and video clip on my podcast website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Yeah, put it everywhere. Love to get my name out there as much as I can.
So I hope it reaches to a million people, and your work will reach a lot of people and help a lot of technologists to solve their problems and learn from you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this podcast.
Take care.
Take care, man. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.